Despite making the worst ever start to a Premier League season at this football club, Erik ten Hag remains in charge of the Manchester United team. And with a fixture right on the horizon and the manager market dwindling, I don't see that changing any time soon. So basically, Erik ten Hag is in charge for the foreseeable future. It's time that he makes some changes. 5 to be exact. Let's take a look. So the first thing that Erik ten Hag needs to do is to get his team scoring more goals. Easier said than done, but it is one of the most important things for Manchester United. At the end of the day, if you can't physically score a goal, you can't physically win a football match. If Manchester United hadn't conceded a single goal this season, they still wouldn't be in the top 5. That shows how poor Manchester United's attacking form has been. Just 5 goals in the first 7 games of the season is unacceptable for a club of this size. Now, some of you will counter this by saying we have missed a lot of big chances, and we have underperformed our expected goals by about 6 goals. We should be on 11. But even then, our XG is 11th best in the Premier League, which still isn't high enough. We don't want to be a team that's competing mid-table, we want to be in the top 6 as a minimum. Erik ten Hag needs to get his attack firing. How can he do that? First of all, he needs his strikers to score goals. Joshua Zirkzee has not scored enough goals this season, just 1 in that first game against Fulham. Rasmus Højlund will give a bit of time to because he is just returning from injury, but Erik ten Hag could really do with some goals from his 2 young strikers. But also from the rest of the team as well. Bruno Fernandes is yet to score for United in the Premier League this season. The likes of Kobbie Mainoo, Casemiro, Christian Eriksen need to start chipping in with more goals. And of course the wingers as well. Garnacho started the season in brilliant form, but has tailed off a little bit recently. Marcus Rashford is picking up his form at the moment. Ahmad, Antony, players like that, not really scoring enough goals and contributing quite enough in the final third. Erik ten Hag needs to get United scoring. Erik ten Hag also needs to get his team building some chemistry, and a lot of that comes from chopping and changing the starting 11. As we discussed the other day, Manchester United are yet to play the same front 3 in consecutive Premier League games, apart from when Bruno Fernandes played up front at the start of the season. Now, of course, all top teams rotate. You move players in and out of the team. But when you are a team that is struggling, the first thing you should do is build fundamentals, build understandings and foundations in your team. And a way of doing that is getting players playing together on a regular basis. Stick with a fairly consistent front 3. Let these players gel and understand each other. Particularly when it comes to breaking down a low block, a lot of the time, I don't want to say tactics go out of the window because that would be dismissive, but a lot of the time in the final third, a lot of it is individual quality and the ability to link with each other in the final third, impulsive moments on the ball to break down a low block. When you are changing your front 3 every single week, these players don't develop that chemistry and that understanding with each other. It's also the same down the sides of the pitch as well, for example. Mazraoui at right back is playing with a different right winger every week. That makes it difficult to build an understanding and a dynamic. And it's the same down the left hand side as well. Diogo Dalot has started every game at left back this season, but the left winger in front of him has been chopping and changing between Marcus Rashford and Garnacho. Now again, it is important to make it clear, it is fine to rotate your team and you should do that. But for me, Erik ten Hag is doing it a little bit too much at the moment, and he's doing it when it's unnecessary at times. Players don't need a rest constantly. Let these players kind of develop an understanding with each other. It's also important in terms of the profile we are talking about as well, particularly on the right hand side. If one week you are playing Ahmad, the next week you are playing Garnacho, the dynamic is very different. The profiles are very different. They play a completely different style of game. Ahmad is a player that wants to come towards the ball, get the ball into feet, he wants to be creative, he wants to control the ball in tight spaces, work inside the pitch a lot of the time, moving into these areas, and he wants to link with people. He wants to pick the ball up, play quick 1-2 touch football, play 1-2s in and around the penalty area. That's where you get the best of Ahmad. Whereas when you play Garnacho, he's a bit more of a runner, he's a bit more of a direct player, someone who wants to go on the outside a little bit more, take players on in the final third, shoot at goal, get chances for himself. Now, I'm not saying one of those is better than the other, but what I am saying is they are both very different. And when you're Bruno Fernandes, for example, you're working with a completely different player every week. Ten Hag needs to fix that. Be a bit more consistent with the team selection. Something else that Ten Hag needs to do is improve the rest defence of this side, and we have spoken about that quite a lot for quite some time now. What is rest defence? It is all about when you've got the ball, the defensive structure you're using in case you lose possession. So for example, let's say you are attacking in the final third, you're building up in these areas, you've got Bruno on the ball here. What is the rest of the team doing? Are they ready for us to lose the ball? For example, if you had players incredibly high like this, you would say you've got a bad rest defence structure, because when you lose the ball, your two centre-backs are going to be incredibly exposed. That would be an example of a bad rest defence. Now, I should make it clear, United isn't this bad. It would be crazy if it was. It's not as bad as this. We do have players in deeper areas, but Manchester United are still too leaky. It is too easy to transition against this United team. Now, I feel that part of that is due to the profile of player we've got. Someone like Christian Eriksen is not someone who can cover a lot of ground in transition. He is not a brilliant ball winner. You know, in high-intensity, end-to-end games, is Eriksen the player you want disrupting the play? Not really, and also Lisandro Martinez as well. Not exactly a player who thrives in chaotic end-to-end matches. Not someone that wants to do a lot of large space defending. So Erik ten Hag, perhaps to improve the rest defence, could look at the players he's got. He could perhaps change some of the players in this starting 11. Perhaps De Ligt and Maguire at the back. Perhaps Ugarte, for example, in midfield instead of Christian Eriksen to give us a bit more. But I also think if United are just, generally speaking, more patient with their approach on the ball, you will see the rest defence improve, because Manchester United will have more time to get into a settled position. Currently, United fire the ball forward pretty quick at times, and as a result, it's difficult for every player to get into the right position. Whereas when you slow the game down a little bit, you take your time, you can get messages onto the pitch. These players can communicate with each other, pull each other into the right position to make sure that when you do lose the ball, you are set to go and win the ball back. Erik ten Hag needs to make a change here. United are still easy to attack. It leads to a lack of control on games, because if United lose the ball, a lot of the time it seems to end up towards our penalty area. So Ten Hag needs to fix that. The next thing that Ten Hag needs to do, in my opinion, to improve his side is to drop the 4-2-4 pressing shape. Now again, I need to make this very clear. The 4-2-4 shape can work for some teams. It is a good shape. But it doesn't work with this Manchester United squad. If we look at the wingers that we have got, they are just not intense enough defensively. They don't cover enough ground, they don't work hard enough, they're not strong enough in the duel for this shape to really work. As a result, United leave a lot of spaces. It is easy to move past a front four, and just logically speaking, that's 4 of your players taken out of the game straight away. That is an absolute nightmare defensively. That is literally the last thing you want. But of course, it's also the space that it creates in the midfield. It leaves our midfielders with so much work to do. We've already discussed how United don't have the profiles to cover a lot of ground in the middle of the pitch, yet we ask our central midfielders to, that's right, cover a lot of ground in the middle of the pitch. It's not ideal. It's not what United should be doing. There's too much space out here. Once the ball is behind our winger, there is too much space for our midfielders to try and cover, to give some support to our fullbacks. The way for United to address this, well, there's a couple of different options. One option is for United to drop into a 4-1-4-1 shape like this. This is the solution that I personally like at this moment in time. I think it would suit this United team to drop into this shape on a more regular basis, but I don't think Erik ten Hag will do it. I think what is more likely is the 4-4-2, which is more compact. The wingers are deeper, closer to our fullbacks, reducing the spaces. We saw glimpses of this against Aston Villa, so I would suggest that Ten Hag certainly can do this. Whether he will or not remains to be seen. Now, after all of that has been done, there is still one major thing for Erik ten Hag to improve: the results. Now, hopefully those 4 steps will help take us in that direction, but ultimately, Manchester United currently sit 14th in the table. We haven't scored in, I don't even know how many games at this point. Manchester United are not playing well enough, they are not securing enough points, and they are not where they should be in the league. The aim has to be top 6, top 7 in the Premier League this season. Currently we sit 14th, we are miles off it. The big thing for Erik ten Hag, and ultimately the main area he will be judged, is the team results. If we get to the next international break and we've won 6 out of 7 games, I don't think people will be talking about his job. He will probably be safe. If we get there and we've only won 2 or 3 games, he will be in trouble once again. If Erik ten Hag wants to keep his job as Manchester United manager, if he wants to change the fortunes at this football club, he needs some results. He needs some results. The question is, how does he go about getting those results? I want to hand that over to you guys. I have already suggested 4 ideas, 4 things that he could change and improve, but I want to hear from you guys. What is the best way for Ten Hag to get better results at Manchester United? And for you personally, is the result more important than the performance? Let me know what you think in the comments. Apart from that, we're finished for today's video. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.